There's two parts of asking like an auctioneer. One, make a bigger ask that you think they won't go for and see what happens. And two, ask off the menu. Like you can design a strategic ask that isn't so obvious and go make it, even at moments where asking isn't on the table.
This is the Angel Next Door podcast, where we will talk about all things angel investing. What it is, who does it, how do we find them, what does it mean to invest in an early stage company? If you have ever wondered how you can affect the change you want to see in the world, then tune in to learn more.
In this episode, I'm talking to Dia Bondi, leadership communications coach, author of Ask Like an Auctioneer, and yes, a real-life auctioneer. Dia shares her fascinating journey from coaching high-stakes negotiators to learning the ropes with 100 cowboys at auctioneer school. We talk about her actionable frameworks like the mirror effect and blocker buster that will boost your confidence whether you're an entrepreneur asking for funding or anyone trying to make a bold ask. Plus, discover why aiming for no could supercharge your results. Enjoy the show. Dia Bondi, so excited to have you on the Angel Next Door podcast. Thanks for being here.
Let's go. I love anything that has the words next door in it because I'm a neighborly person.
Yes, and we want everyone to think and believe that they too can be an investor and help these amazing early stage companies, right?
That's right. Great.
So I am excited to talk to you about all things asking because,
Yes.
Oh my gosh, entrepreneurs, they have to ask for a lot of things they never thought they would ever have to ask for. And most of the time that's money. So asking for that is going to be interesting. So we're going to talk all about that and we're going to talk a lot about feedback. But first, tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up going to auctioneer school and how you ended up writing a book called Ask an Auctioneer.
So crazy. So I have been and still am a leadership communications coach. I've been doing that work for 23 years, 25 years now. And I really focus on helping executives and VC-backed founders speak powerfully when stakes are really high. So that is around fundraising, but it's also around other decisions or founder-led sales they're doing, developing their voice so that they can have more impact internally, externally, and more. And I love that work. And I took a sabbatical a handful of years ago, just because as we do, I needed a timeout. And in that time, I did a lot of push-ups. I did the Artist's Way cover to cover, which is a lovely set of exercises. And I made good on a threat I'd made at a dinner table years before that. And I went to auctioneering school just for fun. I had been the live auctioneer at my kids' preschool fundraiser even 10 years before that. Yeah. And I know at that dinner table, we were all doing bucket list stuff. And I was like, you know what I would do? I would actually learn how to auctioneer. And so my husband reminded me when I put myself on that sabbatical, hey, maybe now's the time you want to do that thing. So turns out there's a thing called auctioneering school. And so I went to Missouri. I live in California. And 10 days, me and 100 cowboys learning how to auctioneer everything from
cowboys. Yeah. That's so funny.
Literally belt buckle. And we learned to auction everything from livestock to box lots to real estate. It's all numbers. It's all the same. It's just calling numbers and getting paddles, period. And when I got back to the Bay Area, I was like, what am I going to do with this? Marcia, I'm not going to be a professional auctioneer. I love my work with founders and executives, my communication. I got to, as a communications coach, I've helped Rio de Janeiro win the right to host the 2016 Olympics. I worked on Turkey's bid. I've done a bunch of stuff with the Clinton Global Initiative. Like I work with the biggest brand. Like it's so exciting. It never gets old for me. But I had just spent 10 days, the center of the United States, learning how to do this weird thing. What am I going to do with it? So what I did is I started doing fundraising auctioneering for women-led nonprofits and nonprofits benefiting women and girls, because that's something I care about, as what I like to think of as an impact hobby. It's a hobby for me. It's like a fun, weird thing I'm doing. I get to put on a gown and stand in front of a bunch of people and do this thing, expand my network, but do it with having an impact. It's not just me and my knitting. Knitting's great, no shade on knitting, but I thought of it as an impact hobby. And 30 auctions into it, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm learning so much about how to design a strategic ask, like how to get unstuck when you're in an ask, how to set up a strong ask. Although I've been doing that for years in my communications work. Think about it, like a big part of my work is helping founders and leaders secure decisions and resources, strong storytelling, powerful leadership voice, developing their reputation, building trust quickly so they can do what? Move their business forward. It's just that we called it a call to action. We didn't call it an ask. So my two worlds came crashing together and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to teach every person I work with in the founder space and the executives I work with who are launching products and securing partnerships and enabling their sales teams. I want them to learn what I'm doing, but I don't want to teach them how to be auctioneers. I just want them to ask like an auctioneer. And then boom, there it was.
Amazing. Well, I remember when I first heard the concept, my mind was like blown. I was like, of course, like when you are auctioning for like an item, we've all been to the places where they're auctioning whatever it is, a trip or a book even, whatever it is. And you're trying to get to that highest price. And it's always when you get to the no that it ends, not when you get to the yes, right?
Correct. Yeah. If I opened the bid at $100 and I got a paddle in the air and I said sold, I'd be leaving so much on the table. My job is to see where the no is. I ask for 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, get to $5,000. I have to have two bidders. I have to have one person say, no, not that higher number. And I sell it to the person that said yes at the lower number. So I never actually get what I'm asking for.
So interesting.
I get less than I'm asking for, but getting that no lets me know that I've maximized the potential of the ask. Now, you started this conversation around a lot of what our founders need to be asking for is money, and that's true. And they're rarely in a competitive bidding situation. That's not a thing, right? Maybe over the course of our lives, if we're lucky and feel fancy once or twice, we've got brands that might be fighting over our talent, but mostly we're not in a competitive bidding situation. But we can ask ourselves, what do I think I'm absolutely going to get a yes to? What do I think, based on everything I know, what do I suspect is going to get a no? And then decide on an ask that is more toward the no, or that full number or amount you think is going to get rejected, and then negotiate down a little bit, recognizing completely that your ask is not a demand and you're going to do your darndest to set that ask up for success, to develop relationship and trust, to tell a fantastic story, to get the champions around you that will endorse the asks that you're making. Like, it doesn't happen in absence of all of that. So yes, going for that no is what maximizes the potential of the ask that you make.
So can you give us an example of a founder that you worked at? Tell us who it is, obviously, but give us a situation where it worked.
Oh, so many. It's not just founders. It's like people across the board. Okay, so here's a funny one. You and I were both at the Wealth Catalyst Summit in New York together. That's where we met. And the afternoon of the session, not the speaker's dinner, but of the day, I had a founder walked up to me who, and I'm going to leave her anonymous, but she was actually, she introduced herself and like we were best friends. And I was like, I'm sorry. She was like, yeah, I was in the workshop in San Francisco last year that you gave around Ask Like an Auctioneer. And we did some stuff around leadership voice stuff around my communications work. And she was like, you wouldn't believe, but that night after your workshop, I went to a mixer in Silicon Valley and we were all going around introducing ourselves. I don't exactly know how it banged out, but she was like, I would not have done it. But that night I made a huge ask to the room. And a woman walked up to me that night and wrote me a check.
Wow.
She was like, and I know that doesn't have here's the amount it was and here's how it played out. And I didn't get all the details, but basically what she said is, I recognized that I could ask for something that wasn't on the menu. I made an ask even though I wasn't invited to. And I recognized that my body wanted me to not make it, and I made it anyway. And I got a check that night. Now, do I have a lot of those kinds of stories? No. But I do have these kinds of stories that happen where I wasn't going to ask, or I wasn't clear what my ask was, or I didn't know what to ask for. Because there's two parts of asking like an auctioneer. One, make a bigger ask that you think they won't go for and see what happens. And two, ask off the menu. Like, you can design a strategic ask that isn't so obvious and go make it, even at moments where asking isn't on the table.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about how we can help these entrepreneurs get to that no faster, because I think that is also part of the whole asking problem, right?
Man, when I first started auctioneering, it was really intimidating. And I'm awesome.
You are awesome.
No, I'm not awesome at a lot of things. But one thing I am okay at is getting in front of a room. But it was just the rules are different. It's not like giving a speech. I have to set up the auction. Like, people don't know me. Who is this person? She's our auctioneer for the night. What is she doing here? I have to be very careful about what are the 8 sentences I'm going to use to set me up for success and to build quick relationship with this room so that I can start making asks and nudge people in the direction I want them to go. We can all have a great time together. La, la, la.
And how would you do that?
How do I do that?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a second. I want to share with you 2 frameworks for setting up an ask. Remind me, 2 of them. The mirror effect and the blocker buster. Those are the 2 I want to share today because I think they're very useful for founders. So I remember early days, I was not having fun auctioneering because I was so worried about doing it right, as you do. And tracking my numbers is hard. It's not easy to track your numbers, and people are laughing and drinking and putting their paddles in the air, and you can go. I've lost my numbers before in the room like that. So I was pretty clenched. And pretty soon I realized that if I'm not having fun and steering the ship with, I'm going to call it like a light grip on the wheel. I just mixed metaphors, but just like I'm steering this thing, but I'm doing it with, okay. And realizing that, oh yeah, I'm the boss. Mm-hmm. I'm the auctioneer. I'm the boss. So I started to get clear about how do I want to run my auctions? How do I want to do it? Okay. And I think founders, y'all can do the same thing. And I work with a lot of founders around leadership communications, and like we do a lot of work around what do you want to do? How do you want to run it? What do you want to do when you're met with silence? What do you want to do when you get what I call breadcrumbed? What do you want to do when you get a quick yes? What do you want to do? All that stuff. So once I realized, oh, I'm the boss, I got to start deciding my own rules, my own policies. And there's a couple of them. I reserve the right to reopen the bid if I miss a paddle in the back of the room. If I say sold, like in the world of auctioneering, that's supposed to be a binding contract. But I say, no, if I missed a paddle in the back because they were standing somewhere I couldn't see them or a spotter was, I'm going to reopen it. And I let everyone know that right off the bat. Boom, number one. Now I get to relax because I just decided part of my process. And then secondly, I say out loud, sometimes in the front end, but sometimes when it's happening, that I'll take your silence as a no. If I'm in a competitive bidding situation, Marcia, I'm going crazy. I'm having fun talking about this. I hope this is interesting to
Oh, it's very fun. Yes, very fun.
So if I'm in a competitive bidding situation, right, I'm at 5,000 looking for somebody at 6,000. Sir, are you back in at 6,000? Or ma'am, are you back in at 6,000? And they just look at me and not put their paddle in the air or not give me a no. They just look back at me. This happens, Marcia. And folks listening, this is the same thing as getting ghosted on email, not getting a response one way or another. You're being met with, where am I? So I will say out loud, I'm going to take your silence as a no, sir. Thank you very much. Winning bid number 235 at $5,000. So, and if that person says, oh no, I'm back in, because they didn't know, they have the right to do that. But it's my show. I'm the boss. And this thing is going to run the way that makes sense to me. So for you all fundraising, it's not that you're not taking into consideration the nuances of each scenario, but you do want to walk into these circumstances and say, look, I'm not going to be that founder who's going to get breadcrumbed as I go into this next fundraising round. I'm going to decide that if I don't hear back in 3 weeks, I'm going to consider it a no. If something changes, fine, you'll consider that. But having a set of operating principles and policies for yourself, it can really take the heat off because you're not making situational decisions all the time. Haven't heard from them in 3 weeks? Good. Put them over in the follow-up next year pile. So there's one. You can take silence as a no. And secondly, there's a whole chapter of this in the book, and I learned this at auctioneering school, is that there's a little tool we have called, are you in or are you out? If I'm not clear, I'll say, are you in or are you out, sir? And if they don't give me an answer, I'll say, I'll take your silence as you're out. So you're not taking control of somebody, but we do get to take control of the situation by, if you're not clear, asking the question, are you in or are you out? And then letting that question put pressure on the relationship. We're not being a jerk. We're not demanding a response. We're respectfully saying, are you in or are you out? Are you on the ship or not? Because the ship's leaving the dock. I want to make sure you don't fall in the water.
Right.
It's more like that. I want to make sure you're handled because we're leaving. So are you in or are you out is a wonderful and fun tool. And find founders listening and maybe investors even listening who want to talk to founders like, are you going to take our money or not? Haven't heard from you. Are you in or are you out is a wonderful tool. Find the language that is right for you and your context, but that's also a great tool to help get the show on the road.
Totally. Okay, now tell us about the mirror and the blocker buster.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I'll just say that I had a founder, you asked me like, when has this worked? I had a founder last year I was working with, he's in LATAM, and he had to get in to make an ask of a few people that were doing a secondary deal with early investors that were doing a secondary deal, which he was like, excuse me, cannot do that without me being part of the conversation.
Right.
And a couple things happened. One is we had to get really clear on what his ask was because initially he said, here's what I'm asking for. And I'm like, well, if you don't get that, what are you going to do? And he was like, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, well, then it's not an ask. Okay. So founders and everyone, we've got to be really clear on what's an ask, what's a requirement, and be honest with ourselves before we like craft a story that sets up the ask. Okay. So that's one. Two is setting up the ask, how you set it up matters. And I use this, we'll do the mirror effect first. And I use this with his correspondence, with his communication leading up to this ask. And it goes like this. I see you. You see me, and because of that, here's my ask. I see you means you're telling a story about what you can understand about the person across the table or the organization or the brand or the investment strategy or whatever. And it's not just like, I see you like to deploy $5 million in capital. Like, it's not about the tactic. It's about, I understand you as an investment group as really first followers. Okay. You're not always going to be lead, but you have been your first followers that let you like, fine. You're sort of saying out loud who they are so that they feel seen. And they know that you know who you're dealing with. It can be, I know you're a pioneer. I know you're a first follower. I used this early days with Ask Like an Auctioneer. I had an executive at a big tech company here in the Bay Area who's on my newsletter, and she responded to me like, Ask Like an Auctioneer, that's amazing. What is that? Could you come do something? And I was like, yes. When in writing of a proposal, I started with, I see you. Hey, as a tech executive in this space, I know part of your legacy is about elevating women in the IT, specifically in the IT function inside of an organization. I know that's a big part of what you want to accomplish in your leadership. Okay. So she felt seen. I see you. That's number one. I do it in auctioneering. I'll say, You are all here because you believe in the power of this organization and you want to live in alignment with your values and you want to put your money where your mouth is and put your money where your values are. I know why you're here and you want to do it with other people in your community. You want to be part of a radical act of generosity. I see you. And then you say, now you see me. And now this is where you tell them about you. And not just, and here's what my product does, let me walk you through a demo, but you give them insight into who you are, what matters to you, what kind of leader you are, what kind of impact you want to have, maybe a couple of core principles that you operate with. And in that, your turn to say, here's you giving you an opportunity to see me, you start to illuminate the overlaps between what they care about and who they are and what you do. And then you can go to the third bit, which is, and because of that, because of how those two things intersect, here's my ask.
Nice.
I love that one. I use it a lot. It's easy to do writing around, and it can be a very useful framework for making sure that while you're letting people know who you are, people feeling seen in the process.
Yes.
Mirror, yes. And there are so few circumstances in the 25 years of doing this leadership communications work that a leader, that a founder, that an influential person in any zone who looks like they've got a lot of armor on doesn't want to be seen.
Right. Very true. All right. And what about blocker buster?
Blocker buster. So this is one where you might be setting up you might be making an ask after you talk about your product. Okay. So this one I like and use a lot with product launches where an executive or founder has to then like invite people in to buy, partner, run a pilot, participate in a standards body, if that's even a thing anymore, like whatever the invitation is after you're focusing on the product. And blocker buster goes like this. Here's what you want, or here's what our market wants. They want, I don't know, they want more profit. They want more ease. They want better coordinated care for their musculoskeletal therapies because it's too difficult and protracted for patients to manage that themselves. I don't know. Here's what they want. And then here's what's blocking them from what they want. Here's what gets in the way of being able to do better patient care coordination, or here's what gets in the way of being able to find more growth in a really tight market, or here's what gets in the way. Anything from technology doesn't work to terrible assumptions the market might be running on. And then the third beat, so here's what they want, here's what's blocking them from what they want. And then it's here's what the product or service we do that removes that blocker and how it removes it so that they can get more of what they want.
Genius.
Now that I'm sitting in, I've been helping folks with pitches for years, even if they don't look like pitches. Like I help a bunch of executives get ready for Dreamforce. It's not really a pitch, it's a product launch, but it is a pitch. And the Blocker Buster is a very useful framework for setting up that. And given that, we'd like to invite you to participate in this pilot program or whatever, because it lets you get beyond the like, healthcare is broken. Like how many founder pitches do you hear that start with EV charging is broken? Healthcare is broken. Payments are broken. Like I hear it's broken a million times and I'm like, yeah, but I don't know at all what that means. And who cares if it's broken? Let it be broken. If it's not getting in the way of something people want, who cares?
Right. Yeah, they don't have a good way of explaining what the real problem is.
Correct.
They just want to tell you what their solution is.
Correct. So start with here's what the market wants. Then we're getting into here's what preventing them from getting what they want. Here's how our solution removes that blocker so people can get more of what they want.
Wow. That's powerful.
It's
fun. We talk a lot about you need to know what your problem is that you're solving. You need to be super, super clear to people about it. And then you can talk about how your solution fixes that, but you have to be able to really articulate the problem. Otherwise people are, well, why should I care?
100%. And I think I think we can spend, I'm going to write something about this week, I think on my little Substack, but I think we can do a better job of being patient with describing the problem. I feel because it's obvious to you, it's not obvious to us.
Right.
Do you really need to think about painting the picture of the problem like an establishing shot in your favorite film? We don't just need to see that healthcare is broken because care coordination is complex. That's the problem. No, maybe the problem is patients assume they need to get referrals when they don't. There's a misperception at play. It's the problem also the technology is antiquated. It doesn't draw in all the data points, so people start from scratch every time they try to get a service or see a provider. It is let yourself describe the problem succinctly at the front end, but then let yourself have patience painting the picture of the 7 or 8 things that are present that create that problem.
So let's now talk for a minute about feedback and how entrepreneurs get a lot of feedback. I tend to call it drive-by feedback, and they have to be super careful not to just have the person like drive by and give all the feedback. And then the entrepreneur sitting there, what am I supposed to do? They just told me page 3 of my pitch deck isn't any good. And then the next person that comes along says, oh, I love page 3 of your pitch deck. It's page 5 that's the problem, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's tough. So everyone's going to be a little bit wrong. And there's also a component of you're going to have to be willing to be misunderstood sometimes. There's a point at which it might not be your pitch is the problem. It might just be that the inability for someone to, because if in 1 minute it can sing for one audience and you get page 3 doesn't work from another, either it means page 3 doesn't work or it means that, well, it worked over there, they're not listening. Mm-hmm. There's such a thing as the world, people are not listening and they are not for you.
Right.
So there's that. So, and I don't have a real tactical, like when this, then do that. But I think the issue is notice what works as much as the negative feedback you get, because the negative is always going to feel really loud, and look for the evidence of where it is working, because I don't want founders to be changing things constantly because people have different tastes.
Right.
What they want to be is serving their meal to the person who loves that kind of food. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that, when I work with founders on whether it's pitch stuff or their leadership narrative or they're developing their founder brand, I'm like, go out and test this and notice what happens when you say the things we just worked on today. Do you get smiles? Do you get questions? What kind of questions are they? Are they expansive questions or are they skeptical questions? And use that evidence as much as those 4 guys who say slide 2, 3, 4, and 7 don't work. So 1. 2, you've got to look for patterns. You don't need to react to feedback that you get as one-offs if you haven't seen it come up 6 or 7 times elsewhere. Yeah. So look for pattern matching. You could write down, slide 3 didn't work. Let me see if that's true 4 more times. Because what's true for 1 might not be just true in absolutes. Okay, that's 2. 3 is you don't have to take feedback at all.
That's right.
If it doesn't resonate with you, it's not for you. I will never go to Coachella. Does that mean that Coachella should be different because I don't want to go there? No. Coachella will never be 100 or fewer people in a private camping trip with flush toilets. It's not happening because that's what it would take for me to go. But if it doesn't resonate with somebody, it might not be for them.
Right.
So given that, I think founders, when we go back to where I started before, which is having a little bit of an understanding of your own policy. Are you going to take silence as a no? After how long? How many times will you go back to ask, am I in? I'll ask if they're in or they're out twice. And if they don't respond in twice, then they're out. I'm moving on because you have stuff to do. Mm-hmm. So understand where you are in the arc of your progress and then decide what feedback you're open to and what feedback you're simply not taking right now. Oh, I'm sorry. This window is closed. Mm-hmm. So Marcia, you wrote a book. You worked with a great development editor. I wrote a book and had test readers. I don't know if you did this, but I sent out to my test readers. Imagine my book is like a deck. I sent out to my test readers the manuscript when it was rough. And I said very specifically where I am in the creative process, what feedback I want, what feedback they should not bother giving to me because I am not ready for that.
That's right.
So we can take responsibility for getting the feedback that is most useful to us based on the arc of where we are in our journey and making a choice about what you're going to have your ears open to and what you're just not. It's like that window's closed. I'm past that now. Maybe this just isn't for you. Or I haven't opened that window yet. I'd love that feedback in 6 months.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
So taking control, I think, is important. Thirdly, or I don't know where we are. Fifthly, Marcia, I got stuff to say about
You
this
do.
stuff.
It's awesome.
Well, I hope this is useful for folks. I don't want this to be like platitudes. Make some choices. And then again, none of this works in absolutes. You might come across somebody who's, hey, slide 3 doesn't quite work yet, but I see how it can. And are you open to talking about it? Because if you did make this one change, I think it can make a huge difference. And then you can be like, I'm going to make an exception to my rule. That's fine. Yes. Because you can feel in it that somebody's they're not just doing the crap and run. There are drive-bys that you said. They're actually like invested in your success. Different deal. So the third part or the fifth part, wherever we are, is for folks giving the feedback. Sometimes I hear people set up feedback. Well, can I give you some coaching or would you like some coaching on that or whatever? And they don't actually give coaching. They give feedback. They'll say things like, it's great, but I think you can just be more authentic. Founders don't know what to do with that. Mm. If I told you, Marcia, to just be more authentic, would you know what to do? No. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. So when we're giving feedback, we need to do a couple of things. We need to understand the impact that the people that we're coaching want to actually have. Like, what impact are you actually trying to have? Because I'm not going to give you help that is going to take you away from where you actually want to go. And then notice the gap between the impact they want to have and the impact they're actually having. And then you're going to give them coaching, which is focused on something they can materially do differently. So if somebody tells me, they would never tell this to me because I'm not in this position, but I would never say to my clients, be more authentic. What I'd say is, when you're brief, you're so much more powerful. And you naturally, in conversation, have a great way of dropping a knowledge bomb and leaving it there. So I'm wondering if you start the product walkthrough with something that feels like an insight that is uniquely yours that you don't explain too much, but you do it in one sentence. What would that be? Now that's an invitation for somebody to actually do something, leveraging what they're already good at, and the outcome will be they're more authentic. So don't give feedback to people to tell them how to be. Tell them what to do.
That makes a ton of sense. Well, Dia, you are full of amazing information for helping founders, for helping anybody who's asking, and also, of course, for helping investors who are trying to help these companies to grow and scale. So thank you for being on the show. And we're going to make sure to put the links in the show notes to buy your book, Ask Like an Auctioneer, and also to your website, diabondi.com.
Thanks so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to rant.
Thanks for listening. To connect with me, visit my website at marciadawood.com. And please subscribe, follow, and leave a review. It helps the podcast get seen by more people. And remember, you can also find the Angel Next Door podcast on YouTube too. And if you're looking to learn more about investing in the changes you want to see in the world, sign up for Ann and Bill Payne's ACA Angel University classes. Go to theangelcapitalassociation.org, all one word, to find out the schedule. And classes are now available on demand. Many classes are offered, everything from angel investing basics, which include fundamentals, risk, due diligence, term sheets, valuations, returns and portfolio strategy, and even a class on group formation. There's even a deeper dive where you can get advanced classes, including capitalization tables, startup boards, and exit strategies. If you're not already a member of the Angel Capital Association, you can become one for a low price that will give you unparalleled access to discounts, free webinars with a huge archive of content, networking opportunities, and much more. We'd love to have you join us.
All content for this website is informational and not intended to serve as legal, tax, accounting, or investing advice. While Marcia, that's me, does serve on the SEC Small Business Capital Formation Advisory Committee, my views are my own and not the views of the SEC or my fellow colleagues on the committee. Our speakers and hosts are thoughtfully selected for their educational value, but their opinions are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of the host, me, or the Angel Capital Association, and neither specifically endorse the use of presenters' products or services. Listeners of the podcast should consult their own tax, investing, legal, or accounting advisors before making important financial decisions. All warranties, including accuracy, completeness, and suitability for specific purpose, are disclaimed.